8:36 is your time now on the terrorist attacks of 9/11. It was a day in U.S. history we will never forget. Forever etched in our minds the image of President Bush getting the news that America was under attack. And this morning, the man by his side when he got that news joins us with a look back on that dark day in American history. Dave Wilkinson is a former U.S. Secret Service supervisor and joins us now with more reflection. Dave, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Mark.
I would imagine that 9/11 is never far away from your thought process, from your memory bank. It must have been an extremely tense and stressful day when it comes to protecting the president and doing your job.
Well, there's no question about that, Mark. As you can imagine, Secret Service agents spend a great deal of time training, preparing for such an event. And as you can imagine, when that event takes place, any type of emergency, the agency, the Secret Service agents, and going through the motions of their protection and their evacuation of the president and protecting him at all costs. And I don't know that that during the time I actually felt it was that stressful. I think that's sort of something you reflect back on and think about. But during the time, I think you just basically start going through the motions that you were trained to do.
Right. Talking about those motions, I mean, it seems to have all been a drill up until that point. But job one was protect the president at all costs. And no one knew where the president was, not even your own family, because you had basically ceased all radio contact.
Well, that's right. I mean, the day started out like any other day with the president. We went out for a jog at a country club, came back to the hotel, changed clothes, and then departed to go to a elementary school where the president was going to speak to some elementary kids in a classroom and then go on to the auditorium to speak to the entire student body and the parents. And as we were actually pulling into the school is when we got the word that the first plane had hit the building. And we then said, let's take the president to the holding room, which is basically a teacher's lounge, to let him get the full briefing as to what had happened. And as like most in America, we assumed that this was an isolated incident, it was a accident or something of that effect.
Right.
But the bottom line was that being a Secret Service agent and training the way we do, we immediately began preparations to evacuate the president if this thing escalated. But at that particular time, there was no direction of interest that was told to us toward the president. Obviously, that changed as we went through the day.
Right. And you have worked to clear up the misconception that the president didn't want to go back to Washington. Fact of the matter was he couldn't go back.
That's right. That's right. In other words, immediately once we knew we were under attack, the president became a target. Now, obviously, the information you receive from intelligence sources is always somewhat sketchy, but immediately we fully understood that the president was a target of this. The White House was a target of this, and that we had to take the necessary actions to protect the president at all costs. So therefore, it's really the Secret Service's call in that regard. Now, with that being said, the president fought us tooth and nail wanting to go back to the White House. And he was adamant that he felt like he needed to be back in the White House, showing the American people that the White House, the Oval Office, was up and running. But it was really a call that he couldn't make at the time. With the intelligence information that we had, the threat that we had against him, until we basically had all that sorted out, there was absolutely no way we could take him back to the White House.
Wow. Dave, what a pleasure. Dave, once again, works for the Atlanta Police Foundation. What a pleasure to have you joining us here, and a pleasure to have you as a member of our community. We're certainly lucky.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. And remember, we've